on our search bar, Israel or Israel apartheid, you should get a whole bunch of stuff from different people.
And also, I have a good response for you, I believe. This is Ruth Weiss told me the story. Professor Ruth Weiss from Harvard. She's a professor of Yiddish literature. And she went to give a lecture in Brown University. Actually, Brown University was a place where the SJP were physically trying to attack me. And I had to get a police escort out of the university, and they drove me 5 miles away onto a highway until they said, okay, you can go. It was a bit crazy. Brown is a crazy place. And this was 10 years ago, so it's worse now. So she went to Brown, and the Students for Justice of Palestine, which we were saying yesterday, were funded by the Muslim Student Association, which is a front for the Muslim Brotherhood. So this SJP are basically the shock troops of anti-Semite on campus. They do the campus, the intellectuals in the classroom. So Ruth, they were harassing her and chanting and stuff. So Ruth Weiss turned to a young Palestinian student, and she said, "What are you doing here? I thought you were in jail for killing your mother." And then she continued with her lecture. And then 10 minutes later she'd say, "I'm surprised that they let you into the university. You should be in jail. You killed your mother." Okay? At the end of the lecture, Ruth said, this was, of course, a lie, a trope against this young student. But she said everybody in the class, and she brought it to everybody's attention, everybody was uneasy and worried that this potential murderer was in the classroom. So when people say these horrific canards rooted sometimes in deep-seated anti-Semitism, they should be exposed for being Jew haters. And when they skew the facts and they lie, it's you gotta say that, expose them for what they're doing. And it's not easy, and it won't resonate in certain spaces. Like last night over whiskey, what Funtun and I were saying, really, I don't think it really permeates my friend's head. And he's a nice guy, soft guy, a gentleman. So we have to fight back with facts and ideas, and it's not easy. And I think just like 80 years ago, to tell somebody that, Jews are not a race, and people are not a race, and this is a social construction, and it's scientifically unsound, most people look at you like you're crazy. We just have to keep being honest and speaking the truth. Not easy. I wish I had a solution. But if they're students and they're open-minded, as a professor, as a scholar, you just have to give them the facts and give them the analysis that this network of people are creating. I don't think there's an easy answer. You gotta keep. Pardon?
I found the resources on the web.
Cool.
And evidence everything, because the reality is that the people who are on the other side are not.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a response as well. I think, have you read the NGO Monitor report?
No.
Yeah, write that one down as well, because it's a really, I think it's NGO Monitor. It's really well done. And I think for me, the main point that really hit home in that report was talking about how in the International Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination, it establishes clearly that legal criteria for apartheid and criminal statute can't apply to non-citizens with their own governments. So that would relate to all cities in the West Bank.
And I'll tell you one more bit of information. There's a Bob Dylan line that I try to live my life by, and he says, sometimes he said, I think this is sort of fitting for us in a way. So he says, "I ain't talking, I'm just walking." And you just gotta move ahead, and despite the opposition that we'll face, keep going forward.
It's a report from this year, like a monitoring Amnesty International report. Is that what?
Yeah, that's one. Yeah.
That's one of them, but I think they have an older one.
Well, that's on our website. Chelsea, that's the ISGAP website. Yeah.
I just found it.
Thank you.
He also said all the rules are changing, so let's make some good changes.
The what, sorry?
He also said all the rules are changing.
Yeah.
So let's make some good changes.
And it is. And so we're talking about all the heaviness, which is very serious and very real and maybe even gaining traction. But we also have to remember, excuse me, that I think what's happening in the Gulf and with the Abraham Accords can give space for many people to be able to speak their mind and to expose how, I guess, the Muslim Brotherhood or Islamists have been using soft power with the, not only the acquiescence, but the accomplice. The West has been an accomplice to this reactionary social movement. They empower this reactionary social movement. Places like Oxford, as I said, Yosef Kawadawi, who basically says that the Holocaust was just punishment for the Jews. A man who supported the Holocaust opened Islamic studies at Oxford University. And imagine an institute of higher education like Oxford, one of the best universities in quotations in the world, takes money from an organization that espouses the protocols of the Elders of Zion, the foundation of European Nazism that exterminated the Jews. And these institutions take money from those people who are advocating, among other horrific things, the extermination of the Jews. 2022. The best universities in the world are taking money from people who want to exterminate, not just eliminate Israel, they want to exterminate Jews based on the ideas of European anti-Semitism that led to the Holocaust. As Elie Wiesel said, the Holocaust didn't start with the bricks and mortars of the crematoriums or the railroad tracks. And this reinforces my first statement. Elie Wiesel taught us that the Holocaust began with words and ideas. Ideas.
Yeah.
And those people are promoting those old, disgusting ideas, and universities are accepting their money.
And the media is letting them all get away with it.
Yeah.
They're also funded in part by them. It's insane. So I think we just have to be strong and remember that ideas are the foundation of society. They still are. The tools of communication may be different and faster and more spectacular, but it's ideas.
Christine, you raised a very important point about the media.
Sorry.
Because the media didn't... I remember when I was younger, and media stories used to be fact-checked, used to be fairly reliable. Obviously, you'd have to read different sources because they'd have a slight bias, but they'd be based on actual information and be delivering it, and in a much more unbiased fashion. Today, a lot of the media leaves a lot to be desired. The nonsense that we end up reading or watching on the TV. And there's various reasons for that, which would be a whole course. Never mind, I was going to say a lecture, but a whole course.
Well, much of it is not news.
No, and
it's a big problem for us all. It's a big problem for us Muslims as well. It's
for everybody.
Immense problem.
Yeah. Look, I remember when I was a little younger and I was a student here, I remember, for the young people, I sound like an old guy, but okay. At 9 o'clock during the week, almost everybody would go to the common room and sit in front of the television and watch the BBC News. And the BBC News was 30 minutes, and it consisted of about 4 or 5 stories. And they were mini documentaries. They had intelligent correspondents going off into the world, and they would have days to file a story. They'd understand the context, they'd present the context, they would bring in experts to be interviewed, and they were like mini documentaries. And then at 9:30, we'd often go sit in the pub, which was in the college, and we would discuss and debate. But we had information that was backed up by facts.
Yeah.
And we didn't agree with the facts, and we didn't agree with the presentation, but we assessed it. Now, as you say, what are we reading? It's like, anyways.
Well, I mean, for Harris and I, many years ago, when they wanted a Muslim voice on BBC Newsnight, who did they invite? Anjam Chowdhury.
Yeah.
Now, he only represented a very, very tiny organisation of extremists.
Why are terrorists?
Yeah, terrorists actually. I mean, most of them went on to join ISIS. And it's like, why, of all the people they could have invited on there from different Muslim organisations in this country, and they invite him as if he was...
But on the flip side, they didn't invite Quilliam.
Eventually.
Harry has had
I just, as a right-wing thug, I just want to contribute to
a genocidal thug.
A genocidal, megalomaniacal thug, yeah. I just want to propose that when it my right honourable friend, the learned member for...
Where are we in Parliament?
So he wants to be an MP.
Harry, I'll vote for you.
Oh, thank you. But I just would say to my learned friend that one of the great things that I've discovered in my long life in defending that modern apartheid state is that we are far too defensive. That is to say, we feel the need to always justify ourselves and feel the need, we have to justify why we exist. And Menachem Begin once said, he said that we live, we don't justify why we live. We just live. And I think when it comes to the issues of apartheid, yes, we have a duty to go and answer questions of, people's legitimate concerns over the state of the Palestinians and so on. But we should also be far less defensive and do what Colonel Richard Kemp advocates, which is to attack, which is to go on the offensive, not physically, of course, but to intellectually ask these people, why are they so obsessed with Israel? What is this kind of worldview that sees Israel at the centre of all things evil and bad? And it's to understand, and it's to make them really think, at the end of the day, we're a tiny state. We're tiny, and it's like, why are you so obsessed? So yes, whilst we should answer those questions people put to us, and there are resources on this site to help us with that, we should also try to understand, why are they talking about Israel, not talking about the Chinese treatment of Uyghur Muslims or any other people for that matter. It's to challenge the obsessive anti-Israelism which consumes their world.
Well, Harry, this is exactly what we're doing at ISGAP. Think about it. And it's also interesting in your, and I know you're passionate and you're proud and you have a very important voice, but I also find it interesting that much of us in the discourse is we defend Israel, but then we say, Israel's the market, but it has problems.
Yeah.
We're okay, but we have problems. So our discourse needs to even be corrected. But if I could just finish,
Can I make one very point? Very little fact related to what you said. I found out a few years ago that Israel and the Palestinian territories are only slightly bigger than Wales.
Yeah.
And I think
killer whales?
It's bigger than Wales? That's a surprise.
It's the size of New Jersey, right? That's right.
But to finish my point, if I may, and I think we'll end on this note because I was supposed to give a 10-minute lecture.
45.
Go ahead.
No, I think just to build on what Harry said, one of the biggest problems we've got is that we're engaging in that debate. We're actually playing their game.
Yeah.
So what we're not doing, we're getting caught up in this. Hizb ut-Tahrir, the Islamist organisation, have an actual script on how to engage people and get them down like a funnel. How to get them where they want them to be. And what they're doing, what we're doing, is we're actually engaging in Israel to talk about other things. Deflect. Well, no, that's wrong way. Get into other conversations.
So I want to go back to the point. The mission of ISGAP is simple. We study and expose anti-Semitism. Don't defend yourself. Expose the anti-Semitism, and I don't mean to insult people, that is being expressed in a very fundamental way in Christianity. How Islam has been hijacked, how ideas in Islam have been hijacked as it relates to Jews and other people. How the social sciences and humanities are using anti-Semitic tropes rooted in their civilization. Expose it. How these people are taking money from people who are advocating genocide. Expose it. And I agree. Focus on the anti-Semites. And you're right, Harry.
I knew you'd agree.
You're right. Yes, you're right. And we should stop defending ourselves. And we should stop. And to my Jewish colleagues in the room, I don't give advice much. Maimonides says, beware of unsolicited advice. So here it comes. We have an incredible, rich body of wisdom and knowledge. Profound. I study with rabbis. I studied with rabbis my whole life. I was the only non-Belz kid that went to a Belz rabbi in Montreal in Divimi, if people know Montreal. I studied with Akiva Zweig, who's the Rosh Yeshiva in a very important yeshiva in Miami. And we could spend, I've studied with some of the best philosophers and teachers in the West, in this university and others. I'm telling you, the wisdom, we can read a line in the Parsha and we can sit reading the commentary and the philosophers that have been reading this text for thousands of years. We can spend months. It's at another level. It's just at another level. And I've engaged all sorts of ideas, and we need to learn that wisdom and understand who we are as a people. And then, as Harry and Ben and others have been saying, knowledge is power. And if we understand the wisdom and the gift that we have, and we can share it with people who are not Jewish, and we don't proselytize, which is another wonderful thing about Jewish culture. We can share and not impose anything on anybody. You're welcome to share and learn, which I think is a beautiful thing. And we should really understand who we are, and as you say, Harry, we don't have to excuse ourselves for existing.
Can I say one thing?
On that note, on that note, and I know we can talk for hours. Go do your curriculum. You have to do a small presentation tomorrow about, so yeah, good question. So tomorrow morning we'll meet, you guys will present 5 minutes of what you're roughly 5 minutes of what you're doing, your project. You have a little bit of feedback from us, and hopefully in the next weeks or months, when it's based on your requirements at your university, you'll finish your curriculum, and we hope that you'll share it with us so we can post it and then share it with our network. So tomorrow is a brief presentation of, I know many of you have some of you have a curriculum that's almost done, and some of it is at the beginning or a work in progress. So present what you're doing, and we can give you some quick feedback, and hopefully we have a WhatsApp group. You know, we're an amazing network of people. You can ask people questions. Some people work closely on your subject. Some people know more about other issues that you may not know much about, but you want to have access to. You know, I don't know. If you're doing women's studies and anti-Semitism, I don't know what your project will be on, but I don't know. You suddenly realize you need literature on the history of anti-Semitism in Islam. We have people here that can send you stuff quickly. So the network is very important. So I know we can talk a lot, but go do your stuff. I'll be around. You can WhatsApp me, but I'll be in the room most of the day hanging out. If you have questions, comments.